Hello, Wine and Gold Nation. Welcome to Cavs.com. I'm Fred McLeod along with Joe Gabriel and John Michaels. We're here to break down the newly minted schedule just out. We've all been anticipating what this thing would look like. I wish we were starting tomorrow.
I wish we were right in it right now. I wish we were walking out there to the arena right now.
I mean, camp only weeks away, so I mean, we're getting ready to roll, and you know, camp's going to be here before we know it, and into the preseason, which is an exciting preseason. I'm sure we're going to get to shortly, but man, I agree. It's weeks away until we get rolling.
All right, let's dive into the 7-game preseason slate, starting with Maccabi Tel Aviv. Of course, David Blatt knows all about that team, having won the EuroLeague title with them. We also go to Cincinnati and Columbus against the Pacers and the Bulls. And oh yeah, by the way, that little trip to Rio de Janeiro against the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be fun, whether we have number 23 with us or not. But this makes it a little more exciting, doesn't it?
No question. 5 games also in the state of Ohio. 3 right here at the Q, of course, and then trips, as you mentioned, to Cincinnati and Columbus. So nice little mix, I guess you could say, for the first 7 in the preseason.
And we're trying to convince Anderson Varejão to be our Brazilian tour guide. We'll see how that works out.
I think he will. I think he'll be more than happy.
Yeah, you know, he's excited about that. All right, let's get into the regular season schedule, starting, of course, with opening night on the 30th of October. Right here against the Knicks. It's their only trip to the Q, by the way. 9 of 15 games in the month of October, November, if you will, here at home. It also includes the first Western trip to Portland, Utah, and Denver. And we see Denver twice early in the season and then don't see them again.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be it's kind of an odd start to the season in that it seems like we've started with Carmelo a lot. With LeBron, they're 11. I think Carmelo's 11-10 against him all time, so that should be a great way to start the season.
Also, take straight to the road after that home game to kick things off. 4 in a row. You know, you hear a lot about teams, particularly teams that are just coming together. They have galvanizing times when they get to hit the road. So 4 in a row for this team after that home opener against New York, and off we go into the regular season.
Anthony Davis, of course, and the New Orleans Pelicans. Coming to town on the 10th, and then the Washington Thanksgiving Eve, a team that gets Paul Pierce. Of course, they lose Trevor Ariza, but they showed last year they have gotten their act together, John.
I think up-and-comers in the Eastern Conference. I don't think there's any question about it, and I think for a team that thought they might lose Ariza to go out and be able to get Paul Pierce, and again, don't forget they locked up Marcin Gortat for an extended period of time as well. So I think it was a nice off-season for Washington, considering that they had a chance to lose Ariza, which they did, and I do think they're one of the real up-and-comers in the Eastern Conference.
All right, in December now, 17-game month, 9 right here at the Q. There's also a tough road trip in there with New Orleans and OKC back-to-back. Then a 5-game homestand, Joe, against Charlotte, Atlanta, Brooklyn, Memphis, and Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a time where the Cavs could make some hay, because as we said, the beginning of the schedule is going to be tough road-wise. You know, the end of December is where they can actually get some wins under their belt, and you hope by that point they'll be gelling a little bit with some of the new guys.
And of course, the addition of LeBron James coming back to town means Christmas is back to work, John.
Yes, and for the foreseeable future, we will not be watching games on Christmas Day from our living rooms and from our couches. We probably will be working for the foreseeable future on Christmas. But of course, that's a good thing. Down to Miami we go. And you know, you look at the November and the December portion of the schedule. Back to last season, you'll recall that the first 8 Friday and Saturdays, the Cavaliers played back-to-backs. This year, same number of back-to-backs, but we see more Thursday, Fridays than we did last season. We really didn't see any last season, then Friday and Saturday. Same amount of games playing back-to-backs, I should say, in November and December, but a little different mix, I guess you could say, in those first 2 months of the season.
And of course, 18 overall back-to-backs, which is a little bit less than normal, and obviously when you have you know, better talent, sometimes the schedule maker kind of shines and smiles brightly on
Funny how that works.
Yes, exactly. All right, January, another 17-game month, 9 this month on the road. Boy, the longest road trip of the season out west. Golden State, Sacramento, Phoenix, and then a rare back-to-back L.A., Clippers, and Lakers. I don't recall that happening.
I can never remember, in 10 years traveling, I can never remember a back-to-back L.A. Trip with Lakers and Clippers. It'll be kind of unique this time.
But it speaks to the fact that Cavaliers are going to be a huge draw, because they'll have no trouble selling out that building 2 nights in a row.
No question. And nice, too, for the Cavs when you're playing road games back-to-back and you don't have to go anywhere. It's terrific. You're playing 5 games in 8 nights against the entire Pacific Division, which also I think is a bit unique as the Cavs make that West Coast trip.
Tough games at home, boy, in January. Houston on the 7th, Chicago the 19th, the Hornets come in on the 23rd, and OKC the 25th.
I was going to say the schedule makers, you know, as we talked about in the past, how they've been a little nasty to us. Well, this time, I mean, I remember going to West Coast trips where we would bounce from time zone to time zone. now they're letting us unpack our bags in LA for a little bit. That should be nice.
Also talking about holidays, you have that MLK matinee coming up in January at home against Chicago, so that should be a nice day as well.
All right, on to February, and this year, by the way, there's an extended All-Star break, which is great for the All-Stars because they get a few extra days to charge the batteries, so not as many games as normal, but 6-11 games on the month slate on the road, including games at home then against the Clippers and the Lakers in the 5th and 8th respectively. Miami comes in for the first time on the 11th, and you talk about an instant rivalry, obviously with LeBron back home. That's going to be something to see.
Well, I was kind of studying the schedule and thinking, like, who is our next rivalry going to be? Is it going to be Miami? Is it going to be Chicago? Is it going to be Washington? So now that the team is rebuilt and we're taking a step in a different direction, I'm kind of curious as to who the rivalry will be.
I tell you what else, don't overlook Miami this season. I mean, as soon as, LeBron made the decision to come back to Cleveland, Pat Riley went to work, Boss gets re-signed for the max. They bring in a couple other veterans. Luol Deng, don't forget, is down there as well. So, again, it's a team that now they don't have LeBron, a lot of people might be overlooking. I think they're still in the mix in the Eastern Conference.
And Golden State comes in on the 26th as well. Obviously, a team that is one of the more entertaining matchups in the NBA. March, 10 of the 15 games on the road, including trips to Dallas, San Antonio, and Miami. Phoenix and Brooklyn. Indiana, meanwhile, highlight the games here at the Q. I think a lot of people are writing off Indiana, rather unfairly so, because they still will defend as well as anybody in this league.
Yeah, I mean, they're still a tough team, and they still have good size. And even as far as the Cavaliers go, they match. It's a tough matchup for us with Hibbert. Based on their size inside, their toughness inside. So I agree, Fred. Indiana's still going to be tough.
John, what about Brooklyn?
Brooklyn's an interesting team. I mean, again, I think it's a team that's in the mix in the Eastern Conference. Again, will they be competing for an Eastern Conference title? I tend to doubt it. Of course, there's some change there in terms of the coaching staff. We all know about that fiasco, that situation. But I do think Brooklyn's a team that's going to be in the mix. You look at that March portion of the schedule, and really late February, what jumps out is so many road games. I mean, those are really the dog days of the NBA schedule, and it's a time when the Cavaliers are going to be playing 15 out of 20 on the road. So I think it's a big portion of the schedule, a big time for the Cavaliers when teams tend to start to get tired as the season rolls on. That's going to be a big portion of this campaign.
Yeah. All right, let's end up with April. Final 7 games. Bulls and Heat start the month right here at the Q. Detroit and Washington wrap up the regular season here. As we mentioned earlier, 18 total back-to-backs, but and then of course we get set for the postseason out of that.
Exactly. I mean, it's a nice. I don't want to say it's an easy month. No month is easy in the NBA, but at least we get a little bit of break heading into. Will hopefully be the postseason.
Yeah, and that said, for as difficult as March appears right now, April seems to be a month that's going to be easier for the Cavaliers at the right time. When teams are trying to lock down playoff position during those last couple of games, the Cavs play 6 of their final 8 here at the friendly confines of the Q.
Yep.
So a lot of anticipation. I get chills thinking about opening night and watching 23 back and how he's going to make others better on this ball club, and frankly, I think how they'll help him too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to, as much as I'm looking forward to number 23, looking forward to David Blatt and to see how his coaching style and to watch him on the sidelines, because we saw him in Las Vegas and he's entertaining.
What I'm looking forward to is, we've been saying it the last couple of seasons, watching these young guys progress. But now they're progressing in a little different scenario, in a lot different of a scenario, when they're going to have the leadership from the veterans, and just to see how they take the ball and run with it, and how they adjust, and how they make their games better in the realm of what this team is doing now moving forward, I think is going to be really exciting.
Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Training camp opens a little bit more than a month at the end of September, because the Cavaliers, of course, open up in Brazil. They get a little bit of a jump on most of the teams who don't go overseas. And then, of course, October 5th, the preseason little lifter against Maccabi Tel Aviv. For Joe and John, I'm Fred McLeod. Thanks for clicking on Cavs.com.